Good afternoon, Simon. How are you today, sir?
I am doing great. I am doing great. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm just, excited.
That's awesome. Me too. Thank you for joining us. So, Simon, welcome to Lending with Purpose. These are conversations that we have with our clients and friends, introductions to various forms of information, which I can't wait to hear more about from you today,
Hmm.
professionals and resources that we use, that we look for, that we never knew existed or wanted to learn more about. So, before I get into it, or not I get into it, before we get into having this great conversation today, I wanted to just real quick, I try to tell a story, Simon, each week, or like some sort of a did you know or how to. So
Hmm.
earlier today, when I knew I was speaking with you, I thought about something that was super important to me. As I've grown older, Simon, I start to be more emotional about things. I start to sort of self reflect about a lot of things, and so back in 2016, I had the opportunity to travel with a group to Africa, and so we went to South Africa, and obviously we're tourists there. We did get a chance to go into the community. So part of the time we were at a private game reserve. A lot of people go to Africa and they want to see the safari and the animals and such. Another piece of it, we did get an opportunity to go into a community and help to rebuild a school. So we were able to help to clean the school up. We brought books and toys and just one of the things that I took was a bunch of balls for the kids to play sports and things like that. But and then the kitchen in this community had burned down for the school, and so what I'm getting at with this story is after we go from a long day's work, we go back to the reserve, and we would have dinner or whatever it might be, and all congregate and have a good time. So one morning, I vividly remember sitting at a table, Simon, weeping, like crying my eyes out, just weeping my eyes out, and I. It's still to me to this day, I can't put my finger on it. I It was a combination, a mixture of I can't believe I'm here. It was a mixture of joy. It was a mixture of sadness. It was a mixture of fear, all kinds of things. And what led me to that is I saw the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. There was a young boy that was with us on this trip, and it was his birthday. And so the workers at the game reserve in the kitchen in this community that we were in, they baked him a cake, like an amazing cake, a beautiful cake. And then the birthday song that they sang to him was like something that Simon I had never heard, like the harmony and the joy and the excitement. I'd never heard really, like, honestly, outside of like going to church, um, something like that before. And so as I sat there, Simon, and I thought about it, like my whole life, like kind of like flashed before my eyes, thinking about like, what, these are my ancestors. Um, you know, this honestly could be me here singing this song. I'm asking myself, why are they so happy? Why are they treating this stranger this way? And so what for me, what it boiled down to is the joy. And so around the world, when you look at people, I always, Simon, a lot of times I talk about purpose, right? And so what we're going to talk about today is something in that gave me an opportunity to embrace the diversity and culture, right? And it was all through the arts, right? And so I did also get an education by taking that trip. And so with that said, I just wanted to share that story with you today in hopes that that'll help our conversation based on some of the things that you do and understanding why it's important for me to have this conversation with you today. But enough about me. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into our guy Simon today. Simon, I tell everybody you're going to do a much better job at introducing yourself than I will. So tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll get more into the conversation. But thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Shawn. I'm grateful. I just loved the story that you shared with us. It took me back, to Kenya, where I grew up, Kisumu, Kenya. Uh, Earlier, before we went live, I was sharing with you that Kisumu is the third largest city in Kenya with a little over 500,000 people. And I grew up in a slum neighborhood called Manyata, and Manyata, uh, we lived in a very small space. And from the mid 90s, my mother started an orphanage home called Young Generation Center. And inside that orphanage home, we had a kitchen that, was very dilapidated. We literally had a water, a trench under the kitchen where water would drain from the entire compound through. But, we still found a way to continue cooking until one day the kitchen fell apart and we had to rebuild a new one. Now we have a very nice, beautiful kitchen there. And we have a school. If you walk there, you will really be moved by what used to be and what is there. And that also talks about what is possible, what is possible in the future. So, I am a father of three girls. I love podcasting and storytelling. I'm a musician. I play nyatiti, the music instruments behind me. It's a 8-string traditional Luo lyre or guitar, traditional guitar. And I just love community. I love making the world a village that it is, where everybody lives together in a peaceful manner, where everybody feels that they are home, just like you felt at home when you're in South Africa, in this moment where there was a birthday celebration happening, and the way that the birthday music was sung there was very moving. That reminded you about your time in church back here in the US. So the world should be like that. The world should also be a place where you and many people that look like you or me here in the US can easily travel to Africa, to any part of the world, so that they can be more educated. Because it's true, you are saying earlier that traveling is one of the greatest ways of educating yourself, and in Africa, that is something that is really, really important too. So, I was saying I'm a musician. I said I was a podcaster. I said I'm a father, but I'm also the founder of One Vibe Africa, which is a nonprofit organization that works both here in Seattle, Washington, and in Kisumu, Kenya. And I also founded One Vibe Media, which is a for-profit business. And I will talk more about all of this later. But I'm just excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Shawn.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's talk about the mission of One Vibe Africa. What I've been able to do a bit of research on is understanding, like I talked about, the diversity and culture through arts, education and technology. Tell us how that works with your organization and the people that you touch.
Yeah, a lot of it begins at the orphanage home that was located in my hometown of Kisumu. And my mother and a number of women from our community started this orphanage home. They did not even know that they were starting an orphanage home. What they were doing was that every Sunday after church, they would bring children together and feed them. Because in the mid 90s, around 1997, when they started doing this, our hometown, Kisumu, had the highest prevalence of HIV at that time. It's similar to being an epicenter of coronavirus, the way for a while, New York was the epicenter of coronavirus, or Wuhan in China was the epicenter of the coronavirus. So that is how my hometown was, but it was with HIV. There were many children who were about 12 years old who became parents, and so they were parents that didn't know how to fend for themselves. So women like my mother provided for them, then they provided for their children. So I grew up in an environment of abundance. Even though there was very minimal resources, we found very innovative and creative ways of making abundance out of scarcity, and being here in the US, I've always been inspired by every experience that I had in Kenya. Helps me survive and also thrive and pursue my dreams, here in the US and just as a human being, which in itself is an act of, it's an act of, resilience. It's an act of, demonstrating our greatness as Black people, as African people. It's similar to what you're doing. You're running a successful company, Shawn, and you're employing people from all backgrounds, So that just shows that even us in Manyata, in Kisumu, Kenya, where we had, tourists and white people and Europeans coming and donating things that they did not need, in order for us to use, their clothes, the food. Um, but now, if you go to that space, it's not a place of desperation as it was at that time. It's a place of solace. It's a place where we have a music production studio. You go there and produce your music, your entire album, and walk out with it. It's a place where we have a film production studio where you can go there and hire our team, and they can take you anywhere in Africa and produce a film, anything you need. And these are young people that people had given up on, but we brought them in. We created a safe space, and I produce events in Seattle, and all the proceeds from the events I produce go to building this ecosystem in Kenya. And the hope is to replicate this across Africa. Look for dilapidated infrastructure, especially schools and orphanage homes, and then bring in creativity and innovation and make them hubs for African creatives that can then connect with the rest of the world. And my hope is to, work with tech companies that can outsource talent from Africa through these spaces that we are creating. So that's the ultimate goal with One Vibe Africa.
Hey Simon, thank you for that. Hold that thought too. And as a podcaster, as you know, with interviewing and such, like I've been sitting here writing down a bunch of notes. And so I'm letting everybody know now, including yourself, I'm gonna be all over the place. I have so many thoughts running through my mind, right? And so I will definitely want to get back to the ecosystem piece. But one thing that I was thinking about, even going back to your story about the kitchen, right? And going back to the story of your household and the orphanages and such. I was speaking to a group of people this morning, and one of the things that I always say is I'm the son of a single mother, right? And I'm very proud of that actually now at this point in my life when I look back, because what that it's almost a miracle that I'm standing right here right now having this conversation with you statistically, right? So statistically, things weren't supposed to work out the way that it did for me, right? And so when I hear you talk about the orphanages, I hear you talk about your living situation and such. How important is home, like in your opinion? Like, home there is much different than I think home is in the United States. So like the whole stability of it, home ownership and such, like having a place to get a square meal and to rest your head and such. Like, how important is that there in your hometown or in general?
It's very important, having a piece of ownership, of land, or of the house that you live in, is also connected to how you respect yourself, connected to your dignity, connected to how your heritage is respected. It's about lineage and uh, even clans. So for us, for example, there is ancestral land that I'm entitled to, that the titles in Kenya, that is, that were transferred to me. But you find that I am not even amongst the wealthy families. We are from a very humble beginning, but our ancestors found it very important that any child from their lineage must have a little claim to a piece of land where they can be buried. So here in the US, uh, the same concept exists, especially in the privileged white communities, and also in the privileged black communities. You find that the wealthy families, uh, or families that have found a way to afford it, try to keep, land or housing for their families across lineages. And that is important so that they have some basic security of a place, to live, so that they have some dignity. The difference is in Kenya, almost every land like that also comes with a piece of farm behind it so that it can be sustainable. You can pay the land rates, you can grow food, you can depend on yourself. But here, majority of people don't think about that, because most people are employed. Remember, most people who are employed in Kenya are employed by the government. Employment cannot be compared by entrepreneurship. There are more entrepreneurs in Kenya that are employing people than corporations and the government combined. Now it's going to change as industrialization and the internet is penetrating the country and even the continent. Things are going to change fast. Um, yeah, so for me, I personally also believe that it's important to have assets, assets beyond just home. Home also means ownership. What do you own that you can then defend yourself with? Because as we continue to exist, if you're a very ambitious person, if you're a visionary person, then you will start to come across challenges that require resources to overcome. So then how do you prepare now while you still have the energy to face those challenges? Because challenges are going to come. If you're ambitious, like myself, I know that I'm ambitious. I want to do great things. I want to do great things when I'm still young. So I know that I need to own land so that even when I want to run in my backyard and exercise, when I want to have my garden, when I want to play drums, when I want to yell and make noise and feel good and take care of my mental state, nobody complains because I'm standing on my land. So
Right, right.
so land ownership is tied to your freedom as a human being, because if you are standing in a rented place, um, you can't make noise as loud as someone who owns the land. If you in fact make noise, the landlord could say, hey, I might evict you if you're making noise in my house.
That's true.
Anyway.
That's very true. That is very true. No, thank you for that. Like that makes a lot of sense, and I was curious to get your feedback and your take on that. Um, I just started a garden. Um, my friends are teasing me now because Simon, I got really serious about it. I built this enclosure. I started to do some research on the plants and such that I needed to put in the garden. And so for me, hearing you talk about sustainable, right? Sustainability, it's very important because I was thinking about the way that I eat now. Um, um, I was going to the grocery store quite a bit, right? And I'm going to the grocery store for fruits and vegetables, right? And I could just walk in my backyard and pick up those fruits and vegetables. We're talking about food shortages at this point. We're talking about pesticides and poison and such being on the food, and so I'm not here to be a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but like I think about controlling my own destiny as much as I possibly can, right? Because some things we have no control over. But with the land, I'm finding that more and more people and more of my clients are purchasing homes and they're doing gardens and things like that, and they're moving sort of off the grid and doing these sustainable things. When we were in South Africa, we went to Cape Town, and so I wrote a couple things down when I heard you talking. Right, talk about. So we went to one township that was huge. There, Guguletu is a township. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a really big township, and shanties and such, everywhere, and people not living, at least from the U.S. Standpoint, like above their mean or living at their means, so to speak, right? And so I wrote down early, just a minute ago, lemons out of lemonade. So talk about making lemons out of lemonade. And you just recently, just now started talking about challenges, right? What are some of those challenges that you feel like people face, or that maybe you're facing with providing resources and to the community that you serve? Like, what are some of those challenges that you were thinking about or talking about?
So you're saying, what are some challenges that I am facing, or people that I work with or that I serve are facing?
Yes.
Okay.
So some of the challenges that you're facing, number
Yeah.
one, and then but also some of the challenges that you have with supporting the community that you serve as well.
Right. The T-shirt you're wearing, access to capital is one of my biggest challenges. I'm producing the biggest African festival in the Pacific Northwest, basically in the West Coast. It's called Madaraka Festival. I've done it for 8 years, and I have some of the best artists in Africa, but I also have community support. Every year we reach about 10,000 people and about 15 million people online, but we still don't have a steady sponsor that can help ensure that this festival exists. We need capital for that. But we have a track record. We document it. We record the videos, and every year we are very, very diligent with documenting it, which is also a form of currency. The community support that we have is a huge form of currency, so it will bear fruit in due time. In Kenya, we have physical spaces that we own. We own the land, we own the buildings, but you find that to scale our work, to scale the model of taking rundown orphanages and turning them into vibrant creative hubs, where we connect tech hubs in the US and Europe with Africa through these hubs, and we bring in artists. All artists that perform at these great festivals I organize also travel to Africa to do workshops. We have music instruments being donated by brands, but scaling it requires serious funding. For example, scaling the space we have in Kenya, basically renovating it and rebuilding it so that we can sell it as a model to South Africa, to other parts of Africa, requires at least $1 million. So those are just some real examples. And then paying myself and my team, the people that work for me, to do all these things I'm talking about, the people that write my blog, help me with my podcast, our social media management. It's costly, and so as an entrepreneur, I started working when I was 8 years old. I'm a son of a single mother too. And I was raised in a polygamist family. So you find that when it comes to hard work, very few people can work as hard as I can. But when it comes to the resources that I get from that hard work, um, you know, unfortunately, I haven't gotten to where I need to get. But what I have learned is something that I can educate a lot of people with. So scaling my podcast so that I get it to a point where it reaches the masses and people get value from my podcast and my blog, that's another thing that requires serious capital so that I can pay all the people that are working for me. So right now you find that even though I just published a book last month, even though I have a podcast that is considered successful, I have a non-profit organization and company that is considered to be doing well, I'm still struggling. I'm still struggling financially. I'm still struggling mentally. I'm still even sometimes worried that will I really afford an air ticket to go to Kenya, leave alone take my family to Kenya so that my kids can stay connected with their culture. So for me, if I can't do that, then other young people from our communities are struggling even more, because with everything I've done, I feel that I am privileged. So what about another Simon who is 29 years old? I am 39, and what about the 19-year-old Simon? What are they struggling with? So my goal is to change that as soon as possible, so that the 9-year-old Simon, the 19-year-old Simon, the 29-year-old can not worry about things like finances, but focus on using their creative potential to really transform the world. Because you find that a lot of people from the African community worldwide, including the African American community, they can solve a lot of problems in the world. But one of the things that we are always faced with is survival. How are we going to survive before we solve world problems, And that's
Right.
a huge problem.
Right. No, I get it. I get it. So, a few more things because I know you're busy and I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do have a few more things I wanted to talk about. Do you have more time, Simon?
I have time for you, my friend. Let's talk.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, uh, art, education, technology. I think it's brilliant what you're doing, and it's serving a great purpose. But it's for the people that are involved, right? But it's also solving a bunch of problems for the world. Let's talk about why art. I think I know why education, the educational piece is important, but also technology showing up in a big way, in a major way these days. But let's talk about like how you do that specifically, and why it's important to incorporate art, education, and technology.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, art, education, and technology. What I've learned about education, if we forget about the formal education through the formal education channels, what I've learned about education is being observant, being a good listener, and being able to be disciplined so that you repeat what you have observed and you repeat what you have learned during the time that you're listening, and then you teach somebody about what you've been observing, what you've been listening to, and why it's important to them and the entire community, and create a sense of urgency around it, and then create a community of people that are willing to live by observing, listening, and repeating it, and being disciplined, and seeing if it truly transforms your community and your own situation. Education needs to directly contribute to people's livelihoods and transform their lives and make their lives better, so that we do not have immigrants going to Europe, like in the UK right now, being turned around and sent to Rwanda. I don't know if you've been listening to that whole situation where if you are an immigrant from any part of the world and you're trying to enter the UK illegally, the UK and Rwanda have come up with an agreement where instead of you being given a refuge in England, you're being sent to Rwanda, so that they can reduce the number of immigrants trying to get into the UK. Anyhow, we would not have such challenges if we all lived by the understanding that everybody deserves to be educated enough for them to sustain themselves, But also, when we talk about the arts, the arts are also a spiritual way of expression that keeps our spirits alive and sustains our spirits, but also it documents our thoughts and ideas in more simplified ways and communicates our our cultural values so that we can retain our culture. And then when we talk about technology, it's about distribution for me. How do you distribute what you've learned and what you've observed and listened to, and you're disciplined about? How do you distribute that to the masses so that the masses can benefit from what and what you and your community believe in? How do you build a global village? Uh, so for me, I feel that when it comes to my work with One Vibe Africa, or just how I live my life, is um, is that technology is a big part of the art that I create, and also the art community that I am a part of. Because, for example, Madaraka Festival, when we started it in 2014, it was just a live concert. We would do fundraising there, and then I would travel with equipment that I buy with the proceeds from the event to Kenya, and we would make a difference. But now we are able to do it physically and live stream it, so that people in Brazil are also participating, people in Spain are also participating. So it's completely different. It's impacting the world. And then when we talk about the education piece, we are not just doing the festival, but we are training people how to be festival producers, young people. We are training people how to mobilize the community to attend these events, how to mobilize donors and sponsors. So it's not just me and my team working, but we are working with groups of young people globally that we are training so that they become the next Simons and the next Shawns.
And do you think, because I've heard you say several times sustainable, and any friends that I have that have moved to Africa to be boots on the ground, they talk about doing things that are sustainable. Hey, don't just come here and say you're going to do this thing just this one time and think that that's going to fix the whole problem, right? We're looking for applications that are sustainable. So based on what you said, I was going to ask you what that really meant, but you kind of summed it up for us. And so when you do things in your community that you serve, Simon, is it all about the sustainability piece? Is that largely what it's about?
Well, it's also about justice. It's also about human rights. It's also about love, Yeah. And, if all those are put together, then, you know, then people can live sustainable lives, not just with the food that you eat, but also with the ways that you can earn a living, with the ways that earlier we were talking about owning land, or even having a garden, it should not be cool to have a garden. It should be normal to have a garden.
Right, right. And so I love that justice, human rights, love, justice, human rights, and love. I feel ashamed to ask you to do this, but I don't know. Can you show me the instrument that's behind you? Is that too much to ask? Because I know you play that, um, and like show us the instrument behind you and tell us what that is. And Simon, if I have to pay you and send a donation or something, I guess I might have to do that. But like, can you strum something for us real quick and let us see what it or hear what it sounds like? And you're on mute right now, by the way.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, let me show you. It looks like this. The all of it looks like that.
and that's all handmade, right?
Yeah, this is all handmade. This is called nyatiti. And it's 8 string, lyre, or traditional guitar from Kenya. It's played primarily by the Luo tribe. I'm from that tribe. This is how the other side of it looks. Um, Obama's roots are from the Luo tribe as well, and Lupita. I haven't tuned this. Wadidala, 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 wadichiemu, wadichiemu, wadidala, wadidala, wadichiemu. I'm just,
Well, no, that was great. What were you saying?
I was just, wadidala means we are going home. Wadichiemu means we are going home to eat, you know. I was
Uh,
just saying something to strum the music. To haven't tuned it. If I knew I would play it, you know, I would be better prepared. But I love playing this. I just released a new song, a music video yesterday. You know, it's called Ongeringo. Ongeringo means there's no giving up. Once you start out for a journey, there's no retreat, no surrender. You have to finish. You know, yeah.
that's not it. It sounded great to me. And it, like you said, it's a guitar. So you preface that that you had to tune it, and I apologize for putting you on the spot. What? Sorry, like sorry, not sorry, because I like the great thing is Simon, about podcasting is like you get so curious when you're speaking with someone and you kind of want to
Mm-hmm.
know more.
Mm-hmm.
And during this time, I'm like, I really wonder what those instruments sound like.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something that's really a part of you, and it's your staple. And so I was really curious about that. So thanks for that. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
How many of the guitars do you have? Like, do you own?
1, 2, 3. I have 5 in my house. You know.
Why five?
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah. Why do you have five of them?
Because I've been getting them slowly by slowly over the last 10 to 12 years. You know.
Hmm.
And I play each of them. I can go to a show with all of them. They all play differently.
Oh, I see.
And I can tune each of them differently and play different songs or a couple of songs on each. Just different vibe for each of them, different stories, and different people made them for me, you know. Uh, so I just love all of them, you know, and I'll be making more. But the kids at the One Vibes Education Music and Art Program make these too. So we are basically helping preserve our culture. By me learning how to play this, I am also helping preserve our culture. And I work with elders who make these from scratch. We teach little kids how to make them. And now we are making music to popularize it. This was a threatened instrument, you know, and even singing in my mother tongue, speaking in my mother tongue, there are more and more people who don't even speak in the language. So it's an effort to also, you know, preserve the culture and the language, but also create amazing content with it that would outlive us, you know.
Yes, yes, yes. And so
Yeah.
uh I'm interested in buying one, by the way, just an FYI.
Well, the
I don't
truth,
know if I can afford it, but I'm
yeah,
interested in buying one.
no problem. I can get you one, and I'm doing a lot of improvements with it. You know, I'm making like a special uh, travel case for it, and then I want to scale that so that, you know, more people can have access to it, and more people can travel with me to Kenya to learn how to play it, you know. So if you want to come with me to Kenya September, I'm planning to go to Kenya in September, and part of what we'll be doing is the music. It's a leadership retreat that I'll be doing in September, so we can talk more about it. But I want to do a book tour in DC sometime. I want to, you know, bring this music there. I can play a little more and talk about the book. So if you know people and locations where we can do that in DC, I would be interested to talk to you more later about it.
I promise you that would love to help you with that. For me, connecting people
Yeah.
is like breathing. Like that's something that I really enjoy doing, and it's a necessity for me to be able
Mm,
to help folks connect dots.
mm.
And so yes, I would love to do so. So Simon, before we wrap up and I'll let you go, tell us couple things. How can we connect with you and your organization? and we'll put that in the chat for everybody to see in the comments. But
Mhm.
just let us know how we can connect with you.
The best way to connect with me is through my website. It's simonjavanokello.com, just the way my name is in full. I also love using Instagram, so at okelojavan, you can follow me on Instagram, and I respond to all the DMs on my Instagram if you want to reach me faster. But my website, simonjavanokello.com, I also have a blog there, Raise Your Consciousness blog. And I have amazing content and stuff going on there. So let's connect.
Got it. And you also, the organization is
One
onevibeafrica.org.
That is correct. onevibeafrica.org. That's the website. But if you want to learn more and connect with me personally, go through my website. If you want to learn more about One Vibe and support One Vibe, www.onevibeafrica.org. Thank you.
And then you said it earlier, access to capital, but before we go on to our final question, can you let us know how we can help you? Like, what is there that you have an immediate need for that we can help you with at this point?
I would love for you to be one of the sponsors for Madaraka Festival on August 13th and 14th. One of the artists we are talking to, well, we already have an agreement with them, and we need to meet the deadline of submitting the deposit for them to be the headliner. Sauti Soul, they are amongst the top 5 bands in Africa currently, and we've worked with them. They've been featured in a documentary about One Vibe Africa, and we have an opportunity to have them in Seattle for 2 days. We are seriously raising the capital for the festival, and being a sponsor there would be fantastic. In fact, I wanted to know why your company is not present in Seattle yet.
Well, look, get this. Do you see that young lady right there? She just popped up in the on the screen, Desiree. Yeah, we don't have a presence there yet. No presence. We're mostly in the Northeast, and at some point potentially, but we don't have a presence. We're a smaller company, smaller mortgage brokerage. But at some point, Simon, absolutely, we will be there, and just let's speak that into existence and claim that. But we're not in the Pacific Northwest just because we don't have anybody on the ground there, no presence.
Yeah, let's just. I know that you're small and mighty. Let's just leave it like that, because small does not mean you're not powerful.
I didn't say
But
we weren't powerful, though. I didn't say we weren't mighty.
small but mighty.
No question. No question.
Yeah. But I'm excited to just follow up after this, and I'm also just proud of the work you do. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
before I let you go, you get, I think I prepped you for this, but Simon, you get one person, one question, one person, one question. Who would it be and what would you ask? And
I
this,
remember this. Yeah. I think I would actually talk to, man, this is a good question. I'm honestly at a place where I would talk to Elon Musk. He just bought Twitter for almost $45 billion. Um, you know, I would talk to him that, if I had access to that money, what I would do with it, because he had access to it and he prioritized Twitter, So I'll talk to him about what I would prioritize. And I think he made a bad decision, I think he's the richest man, but, if I told him what I would do with that money, I think he would wish he did what I want to do with such money.
I could think of a lot of things that I could do with $45 billion too, as well, Simon. I totally. So with Elon Musk, you would ask him what was he thinking about his investment in buying Twitter?
Yeah,
Like,
like, yeah.
why did he choose Twitter?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a short-sighted investment approach, because I think he has a lot of money that is at a moment in his career where he's drunk in power. You know, he's drunk in power and he's not very clear in his thinking. This is my honest opinion. This is what I would tell him because this is me talking to him. You know,
Right, right.
and I tell you, if it's about investment. Uh, if I were him, I would tell him where I would invest it. You know, I don't think I need to tell you, but you know, it's not about free speech that he did. He didn't do it for free speech.
I hear you. So we're gonna cut out, Simon. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining us today. As I mentioned to everybody, it would be just such a shame for me to have access or be connected to someone like Simon and not share it with the rest of the network. So we really appreciate you being here with us today, Simon. Also, try and we didn't even get into this, but to talk about the pandemic and epidemics and such. Maybe that's another conversation we'll have, Simon. I know you've lived through things like that, but everybody just continue to remain as safe and as healthy as you possibly can. If there is anything that I can do or we can do to help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, thank you for your time, and we'll be back here next Thursday at 2 o'clock. So, Simon, I'll ask you to hang on with me for one quick second as we close out, but thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me.